Welcome back, Endgame community. I'm Pierre, here to help you again with waiver wire options for fantasy baseball. Talking about some hitters that I think might be valuable to your team now heading into week 9 of the 2022 season. Let's kick things off with a player from the Minnesota Twins, and that is Trevor Larnach. Now, this is an offense I've had a lot of confidence in. Every time they get a promising young player in there, I think is going to take off. He gets hurt, right? First it was Alex Kirilloff, who has a lot of power upside, but he was on the IL and then sent down to rehab. Royce Lewis, former top overall pick, just came back up and then immediately gets hurt. He is on the IL. Hopefully Larnach avoids that. He's been in the lineup every day the past couple of weeks because of all those injuries, and he's performing. The last 7 games, he's got 8 RBIs. Now again, he doesn't have that power like Kirilloff to that same level. Doesn't have the speed or the glove of Royce Lewis, but he's a guy who can hit well in college. He can do a little bit of everything. I've already scooped him in a couple of leagues, and I think that you could do the same. Now, he's only 6% rostered across fantasy leagues, so he's widely available. If you need some outfield help, he's a guy who's flying way under the radar right now. Now, a guy who does have massive power, and that is definitely what he brings to the table, is Edwin Rios of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, Rios is a guy who's been kind of an intriguing prospect for a while, but he just hasn't been able to crack the lineup because it's the Dodgers, right? They got plenty of talent there to spare. But with Max Muncy now sidelined, Rios has been able to slide into the DH role pretty much every day lately. He's a guy who's hit a couple home runs. He definitely has that power. And look, home runs are so hard to come by these days. So he's definitely interesting, especially in that lineup where he's going to get a lot of support. Of course, he'll be hitting on the lower end, but that's okay. Look, if he goes deep every couple of days, it will be worth it. The thing is, he has also a lot of swing and miss in his approach. Is not a surprise, right? He is a pure power hitter. If you're in a points league, for example, you just can't, right? Just don't even consider rostering him because the Ks will kill you, and really he's not helping you out like you would in a roto league where you need home runs as a category. So this is somebody who, again, just for help in the home run category, you can count on for the short term. The problem is, can't guarantee he's going to be a long-term streamer because, again, Dodgers have so many parts there. If everyone is healthy and back, Rios might get squeezed out of everyday at-bats. But for the short term right now as a streamer, Rios is a good power option. Now, one of my favorite options, if he is available, is Alejandro Kirk. And right now, 35% rostered across Yahoo leagues. This is somebody who qualifies at catcher, although really he plays DH these days. And that's because his bat is what really makes him valuable. Kirk right now hitting 304. He's a guy who's always had a tremendous hit tool. He can hit for some power. He's got a little bit of pop, but not going to ever probably bring 30 home run upside at any point. But that's okay. Again, if he can hit for that high of an average, again, batting average also down across the majors. That's something that's really hard to make up in fantasy leagues. He's hitting so well, and he's got an insanely low 8.3% strikeout rate. That is a guy who knows how to see the ball. So the other thing, being in that Toronto lineup, he is going to cross the plate a lot, and that's what he's been doing. He's scored 10 runs just the last week alone. So those power numbers don't jump off the page. Run scoring and batting average, kind of the more underappreciated facets of the roto game. Those are categories that, again, you kind of don't look to first, but those are just as important. And Kirk is delivering, and especially with so many catchers just doing so terrible this year. Sal Perez, you know what? Slide Kirk in there. If he's available, you almost have to go pick him up. Now I'm going to talk about a young player that really kind of jumped on the scene and wasn't high on the radar for the Cubs. That is Christopher Morel. Now, he's somebody who is only 22 years old. He was at AA to start the season. I don't think anybody really expected him to come up and to be inserted into the everyday lineup the way he was. He made a pretty nice debut, getting hit in his first major league game, and he has been going off since then, hitting 283, but he's got a little bit of power, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and 5 steals. And that's where you really get interested because he's a guy, again, in just a couple of weeks' time, has already stolen 5 bases. And he brings a little bit of 5 category production to the table. And this is a guy who can do everything and also qualifies at second base third base, and outfield. So you can literally put him anywhere except for catcher, of course. So, hitting leadoff also, even though the Cubs aren't the most exciting lineup, if he's going to be hitting at the top of the order, he will score runs too. So it's a guy who, again, hasn't been on the radar for fantasy at all until now, but we have to take him seriously. People are starting to pay attention. So if he's still out there, this is the time to grab him. And now, kind of almost a post-hype sleeper here, although he's still in his prime. Anthony Santandar of the Baltimore Orioles, kind of getting slept on. A lot of people took a chance on him as a draft sleeper this year and hasn't really done anything too exciting, but he hasn't struggled either. He's just kind of meh, but he's heating up. He has a pair of homers in the last week, and you know what? I talked about this a couple weeks ago, the Adley effect. Of course, Adley Rutschman now should be owned everywhere, the number one pick, catcher for the Baltimore Orioles, but then that effect when you have that excitement, enthusiasm around a young team. This team actually does have quite a bit of talent in the lineup. We got young players like Ryan Mountcastle I'm big on. Austin Hayes has a lot of potential. Now Adley Rutschman. Santandar did have a good year a couple years ago. Pretty solid. He had a massive hot streak. He is capable of putting together a hot streak. I'm not saying it's happening or necessarily inevitable, but he has that potential. Look, that left field wall moving out in Baltimore won't affect him too much because he's a left-handed hitter. I think that we can see this whole Baltimore lineup kind of start to come alive. So Santandar, if he gets warm, he's definitely somebody worth considering. And then what about the veterans? All right, here's one for you. Evan Longoria. All right, Longoria, yeah, he's back. He's in the lineup. I think because right now he's day-to-day with shoulder soreness, and that's the thing with Longoria. Look, he can still hit. He has put up really good StatCast numbers the last couple of years, even in San Francisco, which is more of a pitching environment. But Longoria has still been hitting really well and hitting for power. He just can't stay healthy, right? He's already been on the IL again, and now just as he comes back and gets hot, he's not on the shelf, but, kind of a day-to-day situation. So we'll see what happens. Look, if he does manage to keep playing, he's almost a must-add the way he's hitting. He had a homer in 3 straight games. He's got 5 in the past week alone, so he has not missed a beat. Just be prepared to be without him, right? You cannot count on him as your everyday starting third baseman or even corner infielder. But man, as a streamer, he's definitely worth having. And then your prospect call-up of the week is Nick Plummer, somebody who, again, the New York Mets, a lot of big names there. He is not one of them, not even one of their top prospects per se as far as hitters, but he got the call, and man, has he made an instant impact. Probably heard, especially the way the New York media blows things up. In his debut, he had a game-tying 9th inning home run, and then he followed up that next day with a home run and 4 RBIs. Now, the problem is that he followed that up with a DNP, sitting on the bench to get other guys involved. So that's the only issue here. It sounds like he's a guy who is super intriguing, but not guaranteed everyday playing time. Now, the good thing is, for him at least, Dom Smith was sent down. That opens up playing time. He just needs the path to playing time. So not guaranteed everyday at-bats, not guaranteed necessarily to be up with the club long-term, but he has made quite an impact. So if he keeps this going, definitely worth an add, especially in deeper leagues and keeper leagues. All right, those are my top waiver wire picks for hitters heading into week 9. I do this also for pitchers each and every week to try to help you win. That is our end game.